Hello, welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and on screen you'll see my self-restraint has not lasted terribly long. This is the latest puzzle from Phistomefel, the genius constructor from Germany, and we are going to be trying to tackle this puzzle in today's video. Before we do that, I want to just mention I've just finished uploading onto Patreon today as a free puzzle. It's completely free. You can just click on the link under the video and go over there. Something a bit unusual. Those of you who know a bit about my background may know that I was once completely and utterly obsessed with something called the listener crossword, which is the hardest crossword that appears anywhere in the world, and it's a weekly crossword that's published in the Times. One of the reasons I fell in love with it was that I found out that there were statistics kept of every single correct or incorrect entry. It's a guy who does this, and he's been doing it for decades, and he produces these amazing records that tell you at the end of each year exactly what you got right, exactly what you got wrong, what the common errors were. And I mean, it's a completely unbelievable thing to exist. And 4 times a year, the listener crossword sort of changes character. It switches from being a cryptic crossword into being a mathematical crossword. And knowing our audience, I thought a number of you might be interested to know this, and also perhaps just to have a look at one of these and see how they work. So over on Patreon now, my friend Neil Talbot has created a video for you of the most recent mathematical listener crossword. You can have a go at it as well if you want to, and you can watch Neil as he talks you through the solve of it. So something a bit different, definitely interesting. Many of you, I think, will like the denouement of that crossword. It certainly appealed to me. And anyway, as I say, that's available free over on Patreon. Let me read out the rules of Phistomefel's latest puzzle for you. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. In addition, cells separated by exactly one knight's move in chess must not contain the same digit. A number in the upper left corner of a cage indicates the sum of the digits in the cage. No numbers may be repeated in a cage. So that's standard killer Sudoku rules. The only thing to note is that, look, there's this cage here that has no number in it. Now, Phistomefel explains this in his preamble to the puzzle. He says, the cage without the specified number is not necessary for the solution, but because of the symmetry, I simply couldn't bring myself to omit it completely. So this is here just for the sake of beauty. You can see that it's another of these puzzles where he seems to be looking at a lot of sort of big cages in Killer Sudoku at the moment. So this one's got 6. Oh, okay. So these are all of size 6 this time. I think his last one, they were all of size 7. And of course, one of the staggering things about Phistomefel is he is taking puzzles that we thought we understood. You know, if you'd have told me 12 months ago that there was some trick I'd never seen in a killer Sudoku, I would have been so skeptical. I would have thought, no way, I've done so many of these, I've seen all the little rinky-dinks. But Phistomefel says, oh no, I've got this in my back pocket you've not seen before, and he's right. And then, you know, here's something that I had up my sleeve, and we're now seeing, you know, that these standard puzzle types have got all of these extra pieces of logic in them, and that is absolutely fascinating. And it's one of the reasons, of course, that we are so obsessed with him on this channel. So do have a go at this. You know, I cannot extol his virtues enough to you. This is as good as it gets. To play the puzzle, you click on the link under the video, and with that, let's get cracking. Now, what can we see? So there's a 39 cage up here, look. So we know that this is a 6-cell cage, so it's got to be missing 3 of the digits from 1 to 9. But we know, or hopefully we know, that if we add up all of the digits from 1 to 9, we get 45. So if this cage is missing 3 of those digits and still sums to 39, the only way that you can do that is if you miss out a 1, 2 and a 3. So that means those 4 cells there must contain 1, 2 and 3 in 3 of them. Right, okay, but look, the 37 cage, this is again a 6-cell cage, so it's missing 3 cells that sum to 8. Now the only way of making 8 in 3 cells is with 1, 2, 5 or 1, 3, 4. Both of those options obviously have a 1 in them, so there's definitely no 1 in this 37 cage. So now there is a 1 in 3 cells rather than 4. And you can see, actually, if we think about this further, the geometry of this 37 cage is such that because we know there's a 1 missing from it, there must be a 1 in one of those 4 cells. So now, oh, look at this. This is annoying. So, if we think about it, we know there's a 1 in one of those positions in box 2, in one of these 3 positions in box 3. So where does the 1 go in row 3 of the grid? It can't go in any of those 6 cells. Now, in this box, it must be in one of those 3 positions, therefore. But this one we know absolutely jack about, don't we? So we can't even... 25 in 6 cells is missing 20. I'm not sure how to... Is there something I'm meant to be appreciating about this? It's missing cells summing to 20. So it's absolutely possible for this to be a 1. I'm just wondering about whether the knight's move then comes into it, because if this is a 1, that would put a 1 there, look. Because this is in the same box, the knight's move would take care of those 2, so there would be a 1. We'd actually get 3 1s. But again, this is just conjecture. I'm not actually solving the puzzle here. I'm just trying to appreciate how the geometry works, and it's not getting me very far. Right, what else is there? Let's have a look. We've got a 21 cage down here in 6 cells. Let's do that, because that can only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so is that how to start the puzzle? So this, obviously, there's no 7, 8, 9 here, so in this box, where does the 7, 8, 9 go? They must be in those 3 positions, or 3 of those 4 positions. And this is a 24 cage, so that's missing cells summing to 21. Every time you try and do this, though, this cell that sort of... There's always a cell that pokes down into the box of... into the 2 by 2 and stops you doing any really good logic. 35 cages, there's 2 of them over on this side. So they're missing cells that sum to 10 in 3 digits. So these are missing cells that sum to 10. This is missing cells that sum to 6, sums to 8, sums to 20, sums to don't know. Sorry if you guys appreciated the problem. This is so often the problem I have with Phistomefels puzzles. I sit here staring at them, not doing anything because I can't understand them. And it's so bad. It just because I know that you guys are watching me. No, hang on. This cell is a bit interesting, isn't it? Because whatever I put in that cell can only go in that cell in this box. yeah, so if this cell is a 7, 8, well, it doesn't actually matter what's in this cell, because it's part of this cage, look. Whatever I put in that cell can't appear in any of those cells, because we can't repeat a digit in a cage. Now, because of the knight's move constraint, whatever I've put in this cell can't go there, and obviously this is in the same row as those two, so whatever I put in this cell gets mirrored in that cell. Now, is that helpful? 7. So if this is 8 or 9. Oh, oh no. Oh, you're joking. I was looking at this box, but I think what I'm meant to be looking at is this box, and then this box. Oh, good. Look what he's done here. This is just stunning. Look, so let's forget about this cell for a moment and think about this cell. What do we put in this cell, and how does it affect this box? Because whatever I've put here can't go in these cells, because they're in the same cage. It can't go in those, they're in the same row. That is a knight's move away, so it goes here. So you get a run of the same digits in these 3 squares. Now look, this propagates round the grid. This, now, whatever I put here can't go in the cage, can't go in the column, can't go in the knight's move, so it goes in there. And this, oh, this is unbelievable. Oh, it does. It goes the whole of the way round the grid, even that one. And look, you can even put the central cell in, because now you've got a, you know, if you look at the disposition of yellow cells, they look. So those cells there are all the same digit. Because of the geometry of the grid, we don't know anything about them. But simply the pattern of the cages forces this to be true. Now, in your life, have you seen many things more beautiful than that? That is just staggering. Oh, now, hang on. So this can't be a 7, 8 or a 9 then, because this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and all these numbers are the same. So this is not 7, 8, 9. Now, we can go further than this. This one is part of this 39 cage, which we know doesn't have a 1, 2 or a 3 in it. So by the time we get to this spot here, this can't be 1, 2 or 3. So this can't be 1, 2 or 3 either. So this can't be a 2 or a 3. So this is a 1, 2, 3. This is a 1, 2, 3 triple. This is a 4, 5 or a 6. This can't be a 1 now. So all of these have to be 4, 5s and 6s. So this is a 7, 8, 9 triple. And oh, now here's something interesting. Look at this cell. Now, if we look at, because whatever we put in this cell reappears in this cell, when we look at this 25 total here, we can basically just look at those and know that they sum to 25, because whatever I'm deducting from 25 when I remove this cell from the total gets replenished here. So these 3 cells have to add up to 45 minus 25. They have to add up to 20. Now, if these 3 cells add up to 20, we know one of these 3 squares is a 1. We looked at this right at the start of the puzzle. Well, it can't be this square, because if that square is a 1, those two have to add up to 19, and that is not possible. So the 1 goes there, which is a knight's move away from those. So this is the 1, which sees those two, this one because of the knight's move. So we get another 1 in the grid. That can't be a 1. 1 must be in one of those 3 cells in box 4. You'll notice that I do tend to, with knight's move puzzles, over-notate. I certainly notate more than I would in classics, because you get these weird patterns with knight's moves where restrictions pop up and you're like, whoa, and you just can't see them unless you fully notate. Yeah, I mean, in fact, let's just do that right now with this square. This square can't actually be a 1, because if it is, I can't put a 1 in this box, because this square sees all of those 3 in the column, and that one by knight's move, and they're the only positions for a 1 in box 7 of the grid, so this is not a 1, and the 1 is locked into one of those 2 cells. Seven, 8, 9 here. So again, we can look at this. No, these yellow squares add to 24. These add to 21. The problem is 21 could be 6, 7, 8, or it could be 9, 4, 8, 9, 5, 7. Have to be a little bit careful though, because I'm looking at this box. These squares, these 3 squares have to add up to 10. So I could never... no, we could have like, you could still have 7s, 6s. No, this square is still quite restricted. I was just wondering whether I could... That was 7, 8. If this was 6, 7, 8, that would have to then go 8, 7. Because this can't be either of those digits. So that still would work with 1, 2 here. 2, 3. Oh, look, hang on. Here, we can do stuff with this. 37. So these squares add to 37. These 3 squares sum up to 8. Now, this is either going to be 1, 2, 5 or 1, 3, 4. Now, whichever one it is, because I've got a 2, 3 pair there, this square is going to have to be a 2 or a 3. Now, because these 3 squares sum up to 20, it can't be a 2 here. So let me do that slowly. If I put 2, 5 pair in here, you can see, where do we now put a 2 in row 3 of the grid? It can't go in any of those 6 cells. So it would have to go here. Once that's a 2, these 2 have to add up to 18. That's not possible. We can't repeat the 9. So these are not 2 and 5. They are 3 and 4. That repeats the 3 in the top 2 rows of the grid. That square is the only valid position for a 3 now in row 3. And these 2 squares therefore have to sum to 17, which we can do. So we get a 3 here. Oh, 3, 4 here. So this can't be a 4. Now, if this can't be a 4, none of the squares all the way round... Oh, bobbins. Sorry, I misclicked. This is why you don't want to play Overwatch with me, whatever you might think. Right, so this is 5 or 6 now. It's probably going to be 5, isn't it? We've seen a lot of digits with 5s in the middle of them. Now, how do we use this? This must be important. So I don't know. Now I've got something. Oh, yeah. This is lovely. So, now this 1 has become bizarrely important. And that's because I know these 3 squares and these 3 squares sum to 10. Now, there are a variety of ways of making 10 in 3 digits if you use a 1. So is it possible that both of these 3 cell regions contain a 1? Well, you can see it's not possible because of this 1 up here. If I try and put a 1 in both of these regions, I get a 1 there, and I get a 1 in one of those 2 cells, and that gives me 2 1s in column 9. That's not going to be possible. So one of these regions, at least one of these regions, does not have a 1 in it. Now, in that case, how do you make 10 in 3 cells without using a 1? You have to use a 5. It has to be 2, 3, and 5. So one of these yellow sort of L-shaped regions contains a 5. That means that whichever one it is, it's going to eliminate the 5 from the purple square. So we actually now know these squares don't include a 5. They are all 6. Oh my goodness me. Oh, well now this can't be 6, 7, 8 now. So this does include a 9. So the 9s now are probably important. Yes, look, where do we place a 9 in row 7 of the grid? It's got to be in one of those 2 positions. And it can't be here because we know those 3 squares sum to 10. It's got to be here. This is a knight's move away from those 2 cells. This is a 9. This 9 is a knight's move away from that one and in the same row as that one. So this is a 9. Oh, and we just repeat the trick here. We can't put a 9 in these 3 squares because these are the 3 squares that have to add up to 10. So the 9 must go here. 8, 9 pair over there, so the 9 must go in one of those 2 cells. Oh, yeah, yes, here. So we know these 3 squares sum to 21. We've already got a 9. These 2 have to sum to 12. Well, 4 and 8's not going to work, because if we try 4 and 8, we now have to put the 8 in row 7 into this square, which is impossible given we know those 3 squares sum to 10. So these squares have got to be 5, 7. That repeats the 7, but that's just enough. Once this is 7, we can still make it work with a 1, 2 pair. So now this is the 2, 3 and the 5. That can't be 2. Oh, the 2 fixes the 2, 3 at the top. The 3 fixes the 3, 4 on this side. This 4, where do we put a 4 in box 1? It must be there. There's a 4 in one of those 3 cells. And as the saying goes, we're now cooking with gas. This can't be a 4. These 2 squares have got to be 5 and 7 to complete the row. That gives a 5, 7 pair in column 6, look. Those 3 squares are 2, 5 and 7 to complete the box. Those 2 squares are 8, 9 to complete the row. 3 means that's a 5 now. We need a 4 and an 8 into this column to complete it. Oh, can we? No, nearly, but not quite. Ah, look. Yeah, this is nice. Where do we put a 1 and a 2 in row 9 of the grid? We've got a 1, 2 here. That rules out those two positions. That one I've pencil marked. That one I've pencil marked. There's only 2 cells left that can be 1 and 2. So this has got to be a 1 or a 2. That square's got to be a 1 or a 2. Now, what next? Apologies if you guys are spotting what I'm meant to be spotting. I feel like I've made very good progress in the last couple of minutes, but I still have no clue what it is I'm meant to be looking at now. I suppose I can get rid of a 6 from all of those squares. That's fairly obvious, but I'll do it. I would love to know what this total is. We'll have a look at that at the end. We'll see what this total would have been. Maybe it's really revealing, which is why Phistomefel has not told us what it is. Oh gosh, it's this. The 9 here sees this 9 up here. 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 5, 7, 5. Now that must be useful. Is it? Yes, this 5 sees this square. That can only be a 5. Those squares have got to be 3. 3, 4 and 8. That's got to be the 3. This is a 4 or an 8. Okay, well this square must be restricted now. What can that actually be? That's got to be a 3 or a 4. Is that right? Just looking at the row, I think it is right. There's a 4 up here. So that has to be a 4. That has to be a 3. That can't be a 3 because it's a knight's move away. The 3 goes into one of those cells. These can't be 4 anymore. Now, this is interesting, look. This 3 has suddenly become rather more powerful because this, look at the arrangement of 3s in this box. The 3 can only go in one of 2 cells. Now this is classic knight's move trick here. When you lock 3 into these 2 positions on an edge, neither of those squares can now be a 3, because if they are, it rules out that one naturally and that one by knight's move, and of course it works the other way round if we try and put the 3 there. So these 2 squares are not 3. This 3 rules out those 2 and those 2 by knight's move, so there is a 3 in one of those positions. Oh, in fact that's C's. Look, if I just scan across there, that's got to be a 2, that's a 3. That 3 sees that one. And surely that is a key thing to solving the puzzle. Fours. Look, this 4 rules out that square, so that's a 4 just because of the knight's move constraint. It's a very noisy bird outside my window. Apologies for that. I could close my window, but I feel it would distract me, so I'm going to keep going. Must be a 4 in one of those 2 cells, look. 1s, yes, 1s are locked into one of those 2 cells. So this column, I need 1, 4, 7 and 8. So that can't, that's an interesting cell. That can't be a 4 or a 7, look, 7 because of the knight's move. So that square has to be a 1 or an 8. 2. Just looking at this column now, we need 2, 4, 5 and 8. That one, look, that's also interesting. That cell is also restricted to just one of 2 options, a bit like this one. 2, 4, 5, 8. Let's check this square. Yeah, this is weird. Look, that one is restricted by 2 knights moves as well. That's a 2 or a 4. So is this one also restricted? This is suspicious if so. Let's look at the, should we look at the row or the column? So 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. So 2, 7, 9. No, I think that's, I can't see anything. Feel like I should be able to spot something there, but I'm not seeing it. Ah. One, 2, 4, 5, 8. Ah, now there's something else going on here in this column. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look at those squares. These squares are 2, 4, 5 and 8 in some order. Now, the reason these squares are interesting to me is that those squares, whatever I put in these 2 squares, can never appear in those 4 squares because of the knight's move constraint. This square sees that one and that one by knight's move, and this one in the box. So actually, there is a weird restriction going on with those 2 squares and 2, 4, 5 and 8. In fact, in this square, this can't be a 9. What can this square be? It can be a 1. It can't be a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. That is a 1 because of this weird rule in the middle. Whoa, that is a nice piece of logic. Now this is a 4 now because of the knight's move constraint. That's a 1 because of our pencil marks. Oh, please let that be the key. Now, what is this telling me? These 2 squares now. Well, that's got to be a 4. That's a 4. That's an 8. This square here has got to be a 7. So this is an 8-9 pair. This is a 7 here. Is this 8-9 being disambiguated by anything by knight's move? I can't see it. I'm not sure. So now let's look at these ones again, because especially this one in this position, we know this can't be a 2 because of the trick that we've just done with the column. So the 2 is now over there. So this can't now be a 2 because that sees both of those cells. This one is now a 1 or a 5. This 8, oh my goodness, this 8 on the middle, look, it rules an 8 out of those squares. That could never have been an 8. The 8 shifts up there. That gives us a 9, 8, 9. These 2 squares have got to be 2 and 5. There's a 5 at the bottom of the grid. We get that fixed. Good grief. The 4 can only go here now. That gives us a 2. Holy moly. I mean, it's just this 2 locks the 1, the 2. Lost for words. It just makes me feel completely inadequate solving these puzzles. I do hope it's not too frustrating watching me do them. This has got to be a 5 now. 4s, 5s, there's got to be a 5 in one of those 2 cells. Now, is that resolved? No, but it is quite interesting. Because again, we can do this trick in reverse now. This can't be a 5, or we'll rule out 5 of both of those squares. It's forced to be a 3. This can't be a 5, so that's forced to be a 1. And we get... Oh, now we pick up the 1 in this box as well. That's a 2 by Sudoku. My goodness. So these 3 squares now have got to be 2, 7 and 9. There's a 2 there, so that has to be a 7 or a 9. I can't see if that's a knight's move away from anything, but I'll take the 2 here with pleasure. So these 2 squares now are 5 and 8. The 8 here disambiguates it. So we get the 8, we get the 5. That fixes the 5, 7 at the top. Come on. Now, surely I can eliminate 7 from this square. Is this a 2 or a 9 away from anything? Yes, the 2 here. That forces that one to be the 9. That's a 2. That's a 9. That's a 7 now. So this should be a 7. And if I haven't made an error, that's a 3. Yes. What a puzzle. What a puzzle. I'm lost for words, actually. I feel, as usual with Phistomefel, like I've just been exposed to this blinding light. And it's going to take me some time to process it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me solve it. However inefficient that was, I definitely felt I was slow towards the end there. But the trick here, that's not that easy to see, is it? Is it? You guys let me know. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.